you guys for your patience, and welcome to the Human Design Basic Masterclass with Energetic Transmission. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to my co-host, Ashley Pfeffer, and we'll get started.
Perfect. Okay, so for those of you who aren't familiar with human design, we're going to go into the basics of it, why it could be important for you, and how you can use it in your life. So I'm gonna see if I can pull up. I'm just gonna share my screen and see what happens. Bear with me. Perfect. Okay. Oh, let's go back. Well, anyways, doesn't matter. So I'm going to be using a couple different sources for these pictures, and all these can be found online. But I did use my body graph, the Gene Keys website, and Jovian Archive. And the Human Design System was created by Ra Uru Hu, and he studied I Ching and astrology and created this system to help us understand how energy works within us. And it's based off of I Ching, and you'll see the little hexagrams right here. It's based off of the zodiac signs. I don't know, I have not studied, I don't know what Sephirot of the Kabbalah is, but that's in there too. And then
I actually know what that is. That is our Ka body. That's our light channels. So working with the galactics a lot, we work with the columns of light and the different channels within our body, because there's one main one, but then there's lots of other channels, and so that's what that actually is.
Makes sense. And then if you were to flip this design upside down, it looks like that. I think it's called the Tree of Life. Is that right? Like when you flip it upside down?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's cool. And it also follows chakras as well. So we have head, Anja's third eye. We'll go into that a little bit more, but not too much in depth. It has a lot of different aspects to it. And then Richard Rudd took it one step further and added amino acids, codon rings, more of the astrology, a lot of stuff. So he just pulled in everything. So it's kind of looking at all these little pieces that we have available to us that people use and putting it in one system and saying, how does it relate to me? Why should I care? What is this going to help me understand about me? Because it gets so overwhelming with all these different systems and tools, and this kind of puts everything into one thing and says, hey, focus on this. This is what's important for you. If you guys have looked, here's just another view of that. And if you see these numbers, I want to mention that anything that you're seeing in the Human Design System as far as numbers go, they come from the I Ching hexagram, and then also Gene Keys. So if we're looking at hexagram 1, we're also looking at gate 1, we're also looking at Gene Key 1, and they all go. But if you're like focused on one system, and Gene Keys kind of reads better for you, you can go into Human Design and be like, okay, here's gate 1. I want to go into gate 1 more. And Ra is pretty left brain and very like, I don't know, it reads differently, right? So you can go and use all the other different systems. But the focus for today is just going to be Human Design and getting you to understand how to read this, and then giving you tips and tricks on how to dive deeper into it yourself. So the two different charts that you can pull up are either from the Jovian Archive, which is Ra's website, and then we have my body graph. So the Jovian Archive, they just look a little bit different, right? These are kind of more rounded. There's the same kind of teachings and system that both of them are built off of. It's just you have different options to get these charts from. So that's where you can get your charts from, either my body graph or Jovian Archive. I always get mine from humandesignamerica.com, and it pulls up ones that are like the Jovian Archive one instead of the body graph. So as we dive into human design, the importance of understanding what human design can do for you is that you are looking into your energy. You're looking at your energy type, your aura type. You're looking at how you plug into people. You're looking at what centers are defined for you, how you experience energy, how you transmit and receive energy. And it's very different for everyone depending on what your chart looks like. So we'll go into the aspects of that. Johanna, how have you used human design to help you understand your energy, and what do you feel like the purpose of human design is?
Well, for me, because I primarily identify with the gift of feeling and a physical medium. So for me, I needed to understand how my body corresponded with the energy. And we think about it in the chakra form, when you feel that heaviness, but it was also in the way that I communicate with my family, with people in the outside world, my clients. And so seeing that snapshot and understanding where I receive and where I generate really helped me get into alignment with my flow and feeling the energy. And even if you're not clairsentient, even if you're not a physical medium where you're empathic and you feel as your primary gift, our bodies all have their own GPS system or IPS system, right, internal. And so you're able to feel, no matter if you say, I get a lot of times people say, I don't feel. Well, yes, you do. Of course you feel your own body. You feel your own energy. You may not feel another's, but you're going to feel your own. So we want to get you back in touch with how your body flows, how it feels naturally at your 0 point, your divine blueprint, the way you came in, the way you are most zen, how it feels in all these different places. That way you can sense when you're off balance. So that's why I love human design, and especially as a healer. So if you identify as a healer, understanding and embodying this process for yourself will allow you to pull a chart for a client and immediately understand how they flow when they are perfectly aligned. And that way you can help and you can better detect where they're out of balance, and you become a much stronger healer because you have embodied this process and you understand energy altogether and how it works for them and how it works for yourself. So there's a lot of ways of seeing this. And like I was explaining with the Ka channels, I channel light, I work with light, I use light's technology. So for me, this system allows me to see how the energy flows best through the body, through the organs. And when you have something out of balance, you see how it disrupts the whole flow when you understand the channeling part of it. So it's a beautiful thing because Ashley reads human design way different than I do. So it's cool to see both sides by us coming together like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I was introduced to human design, and I really need to figure out what year all this started for me. Maybe 2.5 years ago. And I was searching for myself, asking the question, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Because I was introduced to this whole new world by this clairvoyant, and I knew I had been looking for it, but I hadn't been shown the door. I hadn't been invited into the secret club. And then once I was looking into everything. I was like, I can read auras. I can do this. I can do that. And yeah, that was great. And the spiritual gifts were great, and having faith in opening them up. But I really wanted to know, well, what does this mean about me? And who am I? And what's my purpose? And what am I supposed to do with this stuff? Because I know it lights me up and I know I get excited about it. So I know I'm on the right track, but I really want to be guided and directed. And so in my search for that, I ended up going to some event that my friend was hosting that we got invited to, and me and my girlfriend were there, and they were teaching about conscious business, and one side was really left brain, one was really right brain. There were two presenters, and the guy was talking about energy, and he was actually bringing up patients and like working on their channels, and they were doing all these twitches and having all this energy. And I was like, I've never seen something like this before in my life. I've never seen an energy worker in motion. And one of the participants came up to me and said, hey, you know Dr. Matt too? And I was like, no, I know Sherry. And he was like, oh, well, do you have your human design chart or your Gene Keys profile? I was like, I have no idea what those are. And he showed me his, and I immediately felt like, oh my God, I get this. I understand this. This is like, makes sense to me. It felt like it was a language I just knew. And from then on, I started diving into it, pulled up my profile. I didn't quite understand human design first. I was like, there's too much information here, and you could be a practitioner and all that stuff, and I just use the basics of it. So what we're teaching here is what I dove into first to understand me, and then I went into Gene Keys, went really deep, really mastered that, and a little while ago I came back to this, and then I just got it. And usually what brings people into this is astrology. Usually people study astrology first, and then they're like, okay, now that I understand this, I'm going to move into this. So if you do understand astrology, it helps a lot in understanding this, but you don't have to. I didn't. I still don't really dive too deeply into astrology. I kind of did it backwards, but whatever. According to what most people say, I did it backwards. So in the body graph, and this is the body graph, because you'll notice that the body graph has just, I mean, it's rounded. Doesn't really matter. There's no other difference. So if I show you some charts that are rounded and some that have pointier edges, everything's the same. It's just they decided to design it differently. So we want to go into the pieces of this so you understand your chart, because some of you are like, I don't get this. I'm looking at it. What the heck does all this stuff mean? So we have centers, and the centers correlate to chakras, correlate to different energy receptors or transmitters in your energetic body. And they also are associated to different physical organs as well, and physical structures as well. So we have our head center is the one at the top, and that one's obviously with the crown chakra. Then we have the anja, which is the one that's pointed down here, correlated to the third eye. Then we have the throat. These two, we have the G center and the will center, but they call it the heart center. But I actually more identify with the G center being the heart, because it has to do with love, direction, and just like you as a soul. Like when you are understanding the G center, it's like, who are you at a deep soul level. The willpower center obviously is willpower and motivation. There's a lot of ego that hangs out in there, so it's kind of like you have your heart and then your ego hangs out over here. But if you don't have this defined, that doesn't mean you don't have an ego. You do have an ego. It's just that, like, there's a lot of, did you want to say something, Johanna?
Yeah, because what I'm hearing is one is the high heart and one is the heart chakra, because we have two heart chakras, but one's the high heart, and where the heart is which is the littler one, the littler triangle, is more of the inner child, and the ego voice, just like she just said, because the inner child and your ego are pretty much one and the same. They're the human aspects of ourself, and the G center is more of your higher self, right? It's where a lot of that divine energy comes in. So that's what I was hearing. So I just wanted to add that in.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of what we have in the G center, the center one, is how we're interacting on this physical plane too. Like it houses a lot of the channels of love, or the gates of love. All of the vessel of love is there. So like love of the body, love of the self, love of the spirit, love of humanity. All those different things are here. So if you have it defined, you have a unique way that you experience that love. And we'll talk about defined and open centers as we move forward, just so you can understand that. And then we have the sacral center, the sacral chakra. We have the solar plexus center, solar plexus chakra, the splenic center, which is also where ego hangs out, only because that is immune system and fear and how we are physically interacting with this physical plane. So a lot of that kind of stuff hangs out there. And then we have the root, the bottom. And so if you have it defined, it means there's consistent energy that you have available to you, that you have access to in your energy system, and you're transmitting that energy because it's always on. It's like the light switch is on and it stays on, and you have this energy that flows to it. And the reason that things become illuminated is because you have a channel that connects the two. If you have a gate that does not hook into the other, it will not illuminate another channel. So you have to have two that connect to each other to bring it online. And so anything that's open is where you're receiving. So I like to think of it as like a plug in a socket. So the socket would be this openness over here. You are receiving whatever's being plugged into you, right? So you get to be plugged in. People get to plug into you, and you get to read whatever energy is coming to you, even though it kind of works differently with electricity. But just think of people can plug in and you get to read it. This is more, did you want to say something, Johanna?
Yeah, because I wanted to bring in when you, something that we're doing in Reset and Reclaim, which is the codependency piece. And if you identify as an empath, if you identify as somebody that feels that codependent energy sometimes, that you depend on something outside of yourself, whether it's a person, place, or thing, think about these centers and the centers you have open. So when you're reading your own chart, look at them and see, where am I absorbing from the collective? Where am I absorbing from my family? And we go real deep in the Reset and Reclaim course on this, but I just wanted to surface level it and bring it up and say, this can give you a little bit of idea, because if your head's open or your spleen's open or your emotional center's open, you're actually probably tapping into the collective more than you know, and especially those closest around you. And so if you don't understand how to discern your energy from another or have healthy boundaries, then it can be very overwhelming. So, because you have to remember, like she said, there's stuff plugging into you, but you get to decide what plugs into you. It's not like you have to take on everything. You have an option. You are the commander. So I wanted to bring that up because it's an important part of the chart.
For sure. And we'll talk more about the particular centers in a little bit, and kind of let you know what happens when they are open and what you are pulling in, because anything that is open at a subconscious and even conscious, like this, brings the unconscious to the surface so you can see it, right? So if you have an open heart, for example, or an open G center, for example, what I've seen in a lot of my clients is they also tend to have a lot of these open as well. But this trifecta right here, the heart, the will, and this solar plexus, they are on this quest and search for who am I? No one understands me. Nobody gets me. And there's a lot of anxiety around that because they're not understanding their worth. They don't really attach to anything that they love because they're very much chameleons. But they're beautiful at reading other people and being a mirror for other people. So that's why they think it's hard, because I don't feel like anybody understands me. And so when the centers are open, it feels like this open space. And some people feel like, I need to find whatever fits here. It's like they feel like they're missing something. So they go into these codependent relationships being like, oh, you complete me, right? Especially people who have an open splenic. If you are plugging into anyone with a defined splenic, they make you feel good. They make you feel healthy. They make you feel vital, have vitality because of the energy that runs there. So you have to be careful about, are you staying in a relationship because it's comfortable and because they make you feel good, like at a health level, but are kind of emotionally abusive? Like, what's happening here? Why? What are these open and closed centers doing, and how are you getting conditioned from these open centers? Because a lot of the open centers are very heavily influenced, and you can have a lot of conditioning that goes on in there because you're constantly reading other people's stuff, right? Especially if you have, say you have an open splenic. This is the center of fears. If you have an open splenic, you have the ability to be fearless. But if you're constantly around like a mother who has these really intense fears around like safety and death and all that, you can get conditioned to have the same fears. Or say the open root or anything that has to do with money. Maybe you're conditioned by your family because of that strong open or that weak open root that is taking in all that stuff. We have to be mindful about what we're letting go, what's ours. So it's very important for us to see, who are we, how do we read energy, and where are we susceptible to conditioning. That's why when you go into the human design process. And Ra likes to say that you need to be going through the deconditioning process, the experiment, for 7 years before all of your cells like reset. But I don't quite believe that, because that has to do with time, right? And if you don't subscribe to like this idea of time, it can happen like this, or it does take 7 years, but you have to really go deep in your beliefs and stuff like that. So that's kind of how Ra is a little bit different than Richard is. He's like, it's like this. That's how Ra talks. He's like, this is this, and it's like truth and definitive, and there's no wiggle room. And that's why I like to use this as, don't take it so seriously and don't take it as truth. Like what I'm saying, I want you to weigh inside of you and be like, is this my truth? Is this true for me? Don't feel like it's a religion. I don't want you to take it so religiously, right? Because some people will, I need to figure out who I am, and it gets very mental too for them. We just want to show you how you can use it in the basics so you can feel empowered instead of like searching. I want this to pull you back into you, not on a treasure quest. So with the chart and these columns that you have, one is personality and one is design. And what that means is the personality section is that your defined aspects of your personality that you can recognize in yourself and others recognize in you. So it's like, this comes out, this is projected out of you a lot. The design portion of it was imprinted on you 88 days before you were born. So while you were in the womb, and it is deeply associated with your body. And it's a lot of stuff that's unconscious, stuff that needs to come up through the surface. So you're not going to recognize these. You can think of these as your little lessons in life. Like you most likely are trying to master this stuff, you know, and there's a lot of subconscious shadow stuff that can come up in these as well. And all of the secrets to these lie in your body. That's why a lot of, and we'll go into this later, but this is all like stored in your body. While this kind of come to the forefront in your personality. So anything that is black is defined, part of your personality. Anything that is red is unconscious. Anything that is candy cane means that it holds both. You may have, so with 12 is in the conscious over here and the unconscious over here. So that's why part of it is in the conscious, part of it's in the unconscious. Part of it shows up in your personality. And then there's aspects of this flavor that you don't recognize, right? So 12 has a lot to do with your tone and the way that you speak. And you may have, you may not notice, so at an unconscious level, you may not notice how impactful the tone of your voice is, but other people will be like, oh my God, you're using that tone with me again. I feel judged by you. I feel belittled by you, but you don't feel like it's coming out, like you don't feel like you're saying it, but it comes out in your tone. So it's something you start becoming mindful and conscious about so that you can start bringing that unconscious stuff to the surface so you can transform it into the higher expression. Because we don't even know we're doing it half the time for these unconscious aspects. Channels and gates. Just so that you know the verbiage and the language here, a channel is something that has 2 gates defined. So it activates a whole channel, and usually channels become strengths for us. So if you have a whole channel defined, you have these 2 energies working together and it becomes a really great powerhouse for you. Gates, like 62 you have over here, this is called a hanging gate, which means it doesn't have this other 17 to complete it. So when you're looking at these 2, you have this energy available to you, but this is something you can either pull in or learn, or you get it when you connect to somebody else, right? But you're not a victim of if you have or have not a gate. And some of our relationships, sometimes we just attract the people that fill in these areas when we need them, and you'll have the channel active for you. So we're not looking to define all of these. We're just looking to be mindful of what we have and what we can work on. right? And this is a little description of all the different centers and what they're for. Very important. I think this is really important to understand and know. So your head center is a pressure center. Same thing with your root. You've got two pressure centers, one in the head, one in the root. There's a pressure for inspiration, a pressure that can be created with anxiety too. So when you have an open center there, you can feel into a lot of anxiety because of the pressure of the stuff that's coming in, right? And it's not generated by you, it's coming in from all areas. The Anja Center is about conceptualization. And we have three awareness centers, the Anja, the spleen, and the solar plexus. And awareness just means like, obviously having an awareness of something. So solar plexus is all about emotions. So being aware of that. Splenic is all about intuition, your immune system, your fears, that awareness. And then the Anja is like ideas that that are coming in and you're conceptualizing, right? So the head center is just used for inspiration and ideas. And then you get to take that and then do something with it, especially if you have a defined Anja. Your throat center is for manifestation. It's a motor center, meaning it's driven by energy. Your ego can lie there just in the voice of the throat, right? And it's also with, so we got manifestation, direction, manifestation, and like your voice, like speaking. Let's see, and then we have the G center, which we said self-direction and love. Your heart, another motor center, ego and willpower, motivation. I call this the will center. A lot of people use will center and heart interchangeably, because I like calling it the will center because it's for willpower and motivation. And then we talked about the splenic, so intuition, immune system, fears. Sacral is your engine in your car, and it's about life force, sexuality. It's what gives you the energy. It's like, if you can think of the root as the gas in your car and the sacral as the engine, that's what's going to drive you. If you have an open sacral, you're not here to do a bunch of work. If that means you're either a projector, manifestor, or a reflector. But however, if you have a defined heart, which a lot of manifestors do, that tends to be your center that drives you, that gives you energy. So it's not that a manifestor is a non-energy type, it's just they don't have the sacral. So this is what drives you, because if you can think about it, your willpower and your motivation will definitely drive you. But for all you non-energy types, which would be the projectors and the reflectors, you guys are here to be more guides or observers or giving your input in different ways, and you're not supposed to be doing super extraneous, labor-intensive work where you are breaking your back and working 9 to 5. So if you are a projector or a reflector and you're doing a 9 to 5, you're doing yourself a disservice, unless you're utilized in the right way, right? So if you're a server and you're working super long hours and not getting rest, and you're a projector or a reflector, you're going to experience a lot of burnout. Whereas if you were the manager at a restaurant, it would be a little bit different, right? Because you wouldn't be running around, you wouldn't be interfacing with a lot of customers a lot. You would just be managing. Projectors are great managers, and we'll talk about the different energy types in a second. And then the root is pressure in the form of stress. So we have head, anxiety, pressure, root, stress, pressure, and it's also another motor center. So we have motor, motor, motor. So we got 3 motors.
4, you got the solar plexus too.
Oh, there we go. Motor, 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 motor. Let's hang out over here. All right, so as we move into these centers, we're going to talk about what it means to be open, what it means to be closed. So the head center has 3 gates. hanging out here. We got the gate of confusion, the gate of mystery, the gate of doubt, and you can dive in deeper to those, look into more of those if you'd like, if you have them defined. When you have this center defined, you have consistent inspiration, ideas coming to you. It's almost like your mind doesn't shut off. And usually if you have an open or a defined head, you usually have a defined anja as well. And the mind's just keep going, don't really shut off. So you're here generating ideas, coming up with things, conceptualizing things, grounding things so that you can share it. And you get to decide what you hold on to and what you let go. Because just because you have the idea doesn't mean you do something with it. So a lot of people who have defined head centers, they're constantly coming up with ideas, but they're not always taking action on them. But when they come up with the ideas, it gets thrown out into that collective energy that we can pull from. And a lot of people with open head centers, which there's, I think 70 or 80% of the population are open head centers, we're like, ooh, what's this floating around? I'm gonna pull that in. An open head center. So the themes of this is inspiration, mental pressure, doubt, confusion, and questions. When you are in your not self theme, meaning you're not centered, you're not aligned, and you're in your not self theme, you're going to be thinking about things that don't matter and trying to answer questions that aren't even yours. So if you get something that pops in and it has nothing to do with your life and you're trying to solve world hunger or peace or your partner had a really bad day and you're trying to figure out how can I make their day better or whatever, it's not your question to answer. But sometimes you'll be pulling in stuff from other people. I'm like, oh, and we want to be helpful. That's kind of what we're doing. But some of the stuff is not our questions to answer. So when we come into these different centers, and you know that you're open, you're going to want to ask yourself these not self questions. So if you can't shut off your mind and it's causing a lot of anxiety because you're not getting an answer to the question, maybe it's not your question to answer. So ask yourself these things. Am I trying to answer everybody else's questions? And if it's yes, then it's not really yours to answer.
I want to bring in something just because it's showing up. So there's going to be different people, different levels of people who will watch this. And if you're somebody who is a little bit more advanced on your spiritual journey and you do channel, whatever, channel anything, even your higher self or channel light or whatever, if you have a defined head center, when you bring that information in, you will remember it. So when I channel, for example, I have an open head center. So when I get downloads, I have to immediately start writing it or typing it or putting it somewhere because I will forget it. It'll be like, I don't know, it came in. And that's why a lot of times when I do my recordings, I have somebody go back and transcribe them because the best shit comes out when I just am speaking because I'm just channeling it through. But I don't retain it. I don't hold on to it. I pull it through my anja, which we'll talk about in a minute, and I bring it through my filter, my soul truth, and break it down in my way. But I don't hold on to that information. Whereas like my son, for example, has a defined head center. So when he brings information forth, he is 12 years old, and you would think that he's been around for 30 years or 40 years because the information that he knows that is stored in his mind is insane. He's like a walking encyclopedia. And so he holds on to it. He doesn't even have to try to. It's just retained in there. And so that way you think about it, when somebody plugs into him, they're just pulling this wealth of knowledge right from his crown, right? That whole telepathy business. And so I want you to think about it that way. If you are somebody who is actually a little bit more advanced, who's already working with clients or with angels or anything, think about it that way as well. When you're bringing forth the information, you think, why don't I remember this stuff that I'm channeling? Well, if you have an open head center, you're not going to, so you want to make sure you're recording that information.
Mm-hmm. Very good indicator. Please feel free to jump in, Johanna, because I feel like what I'm bringing is more like the basics of it, and I really think it's important for you guys to understand how you can use it and the tips and tricks, while I'll mostly be focusing on explaining this to you.
Yeah. Someone just asked, and I'm going to try to keep most of the questions to the end, but the only way you'll know if your head center is open, it has nothing to do with the gates. It has nothing to do with the numbers she's speaking of. If your head center, this triangle, is filled in with a color, then it's defined. If it's white, it's open.
Exactly. Like the first slide we were talking about, anything that's white, you're open to receive. You are open for business. As I have an open head and angina and throat center, and I know I was super great at school, but guess what? I don't remember anything. And that's because I'm really great at pulling it in and then dumping it in the test and then forgetting it. And that's what happens to a lot of open head centers. We're not here to remember anything or know anything. Doesn't that alleviate a lot of pressure for you? You don't need to know. And then the Angels is about caring. You don't need to know and you don't need to care. All you need to do is channel. That's all you do. And if you are trying to develop something from the ground up and it's really frustrating and complicated, it's probably because you're trying to do something that is somebody else's job to create. But you know that you want it, so you want to experience it, and it's causing a lot of stress and strain and struggle for you. Anyone that has a defined anja, and we'll move on to that, a defined anja, you guys are here you can channel and pull in that inspiration, and then you do something with that material, right? You're actually grounding it, embodying it, understanding it. The anja is the conceptualization center. So here are all the gates, like listen to the names of these: formalization, opinions. You're creating an opinion on something that you're pulling in. You're formalizing this, you're connecting the dots, you're rationalizing, you're getting insight on it. You are realizing and having ideas and then understanding how to articulate those ideas. And even if you don't have this defined, sometimes you'll have these gates, right? And especially if you have the gate of realization, so 43, right? That one is deafness, insight, epiphany. And if you have it open here, guess what? You're going to be channeling stuff, and then it's going to come out of you, and it's going to be like an aha moment. You're going to have a lot of light bulb moments. And then you may not be able to back it up with information, support, and facts. And people are going to be like, where did you get that information? I don't know. I just know it. A lot of people, this is the language of this gate. I just know. And when you try to explain your knowing, that's a not self theme. So if it's open for you, you're not here to explain it. Johanna's here to explain it because hers is defined. I'm not here to explain it. If I'm channeling it, I'm like, I don't know where that came from. I don't know how to explain it. It just is. Just believe me, right? I'm not trying to convince anyone I'm certain, because I'm not here to formalize. I'm not here to conceptualize. I'm just here to channel it. And that's a lot of what's happening to me with understanding this. I think that I plug into whatever this thing is and pull it down. Because I never really had to learn it. I just immediately plugged in. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Boom, 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 boom. I didn't have to study it. I don't study this. I just practiced it. And it becomes second nature to me.
And honestly, this is just, we see there's so many people with this new age spirituality that's out there. And I want to say this, and this is not a judgment. This is very much just a very open-ended perspective. When we hear a lot of people say clear conduit, okay, that has nothing to do with, and I don't know why, but we're just going to bring it up because it's coming in. So it has nothing to do with your head centers or whatever. It does help because you don't really have an attachment to it, right? So it's not filtering through anything. You're just bringing it through verbatim generally is what's happening. And that's why a lot of times people don't, if you hear someone channeling and you're like, why do they use all these big words? They're not breaking it down. They're not breaking it down and through their filter. They're just spitting out the pure of what's coming through. When we hear someone say they're a clear conduit, that means that they have done the work to get themselves out of the way to receive. And so I want to bring that up because I feel like people are seeing these kind of charts and thinking, oh, I'm clear, I'm a clear conduit. No, it means to be a clear conduit. That means you've done the work to clear yourself out and you get out of your ego gets out of the way completely. You have no attachment to what you are saying and you're just bringing forth the energy or the information. And if you have that closed anja, then you're going to bring it through and you're going to break it down. So you'll channel it more in layman's terms and human terminology than the big esoteric terminology. So
unless that's your language, unless that is how you deliver that information, because some people will have really esoteric and they have defined stuff going on here. It's just who's your audience? What are you speaking to? A lot of people, so because you have like open, if you have open centers and you're plugging into somebody, you can channel for them. And you are, like, what I've noticed is in having an open throat, I can speak other people's language if I'm connected to them, right? And I'll start noticing that I'm saying different things and speaking a different way just because of who I'm plugging into. If I'm setting that intention to plug into that collective. So setting intention, I want to be as clear as I can to everybody that's watching this. So I want to make sure that I'm speaking their language, right? Because you're going to be able to just have that come through there. And you also, anybody who has an open throat center, you're going to be able to pick up on the other person's throat. Like it's a motor. And if you don't have the motor going here, it'll take you a little bit of time to get going. So don't feel bulldozed by people who have defined throat centers. That doesn't mean that you're not here to talk. It just means it's going to take you a little bit to get started because you got to rev that motor. Whereas people who have defined throat centers, they're ready to talk whenever. Let's go, whenever. So if you have a child who has an open throat center, or you have an open throat center, you just got to know you got to give them time to respond. They're not going to immediately be able to start talking about it. They'll need to activate it to start talking. I know I stumble a lot in the beginning because I'm trying to get it going. And then once it goes, it comes out a little bit more fluid.
My favorite thing to say about the throat center is I get a lot of clients that come to me and that have open throat centers, and I'm able to, just by them plugging in, or me plugging into them, I should say, it's like I'm taking this jumbled ball of words, and when I plug into them, all the words line up and they're able to stream it out. It's like the pressure is relieved. I have a lot of clients that say, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to say it. I couldn't get the right words or get it in the right order. And so when they come into my presence, all of a sudden the words flow perfectly together and they're able to express it. And then they hear themselves and they're like, oh, how come when I'm connected with you, I can just speak it so fluidly? And that's why. The other part of this is before I even knew about human design, before my energy senses came online, I swear to you, I could have gone to a gas station, a grocery store. People will come up to me. They'll tell me their whole life story. And literally, I used to say, do I have tell me your story on my forehead? Because I didn't understand why everybody, and they would even say, I don't know why I'm telling you this. And it's because they needed that by me plugging into them, that energy, it relieved their pressure and they were able to just safely express it and get it out. So think about your everyday life and the people around you and see how people interact. This is where the awareness comes in. You'll see a lot of, you'll notice, you'll be able to pick up quickly who has an open center and who doesn't. It's pretty fun.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's almost like when you are able to be around somebody who has a center defined that you do not, it's almost like you get to borrow that energy. So I had a friend, a business partner in the past who was a projector who didn't have an open sacral. But when we got together, it was like we could go forever because it's almost like she would plug into my sacral, and if we were aligned on the same task, it was like we could go. Whereas if she did things alone, and a lot of projectors are like that, you love being in coffee shops or around people because it's almost like you can borrow that energy from them and then it gives you more. But if you try to do something by yourself, you're purely going on by food energy, and if you have a defined will, the will energy. And that's what's happening. Or some projectors have defined roots and you have the gas, but it's almost like, I need a spark to light this. I don't have a container for this gas. I don't know what to do. And it creates a lot of pressure.
I want to bring this in real quick because you were talking about the borrowed energy. My son is a projector and my husband is a manifesting generator. When both of my sons actually are projectors. So when we go out and we do family events together, my husband would get drained super quick and he'd be like, I'm so exhausted and I just want to go home, and he'd get cranky and he refused to listen to me. And then one day he got overwhelmed by it. He was just so exhausted. And I said, are you ready to listen to me on how to scratch that word because that's not the right word to use. Are you ready to learn boundaries and how to discern when they're tapping into your energy? Are you ready to learn how to to project your field out so that your energy remains used. Because just because you are able to allow somebody to plug into you doesn't mean you have to, right? That's where these boundaries and this discernment, especially you empaths who have a lot, of open centers that are looking, right? However you're feeling overwhelmed and exhausted all the time, then you are leaking energy or absorbing energy, or you're giving it all away. So you have to be able to discern. And so I wanted to bring that up because if this is something you struggle with, then, reach out to us and get some help, because Reset and Reclaim, we go super deep on discernment and boundaries. And, my husband finally learned. And so then my kids would no longer get super hyperactive on trips. And my husband had consistent energy again. And he was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, so you get it now. And it changed the game for him. So you just have to be aware of how your energy is in different environments.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes, awareness is key. And I think the biggest thing with when you start diving into the gates for you is to understand there's different frequencies of the energy that runs through these channels and these gates. So I love how Richard Rudd breaks it down in Gene Keys of the different frequencies, right? So let's just look at 23. So this is about knowing or not. And 23 can be a really addictive gate, because it's a gate. It's about addictions. It's addiction in addiction, inspiration. What is it? Anyways, it's the gap. It's where if you allow yourself to just quiet for a little bit, you get all these epiphanies and insights, but you got to get outside of your own box, right? The same thing with deafness. It's interesting how they're connected, right? You can be deaf and addicted to your mind, and you won't be quiet enough to get those epiphanies, to get those insights, because you're not resting in the gap enough. You're getting too much anxiety, and you're avoiding, and you're addicted. A lot of codependencies show up in this one.
23 is complexity, simplicity, and
oh, there you go. Thanks. So making things complicated. What am I thinking of? What is the gap one? I can't remember what number that one is. But anyways, making things complicated. And you can see it coming out of the throat center, how a lot of people can overcomplicate things, especially if you have this. Like, the key here is simplicity. Simplicity is going to be your best friend. So here are the different, 23 is this one right here, 63, I think, or not. 56, I believe, or not. People who have 11 and 56 are really great storytellers. They're here to have the ideas and conceptualize them and then speak them. And so having that channel allows you to be a great storyteller. If you don't have it, it doesn't mean you can't tell stories. It's just those are the people you're like, man, you're so good at telling stories, right? 16 is all about skills. So I experiment or not. And it's about it's about mastery. So what you're wanting to master and explain. It's almost like being able to teach these things too. 20 is the gate of the now. You can read these and come back and pause it and look into these. I don't want to go into all the gates here. There's way too many gates, and that's for another time. And you can go deeper in that and Google that if you want. But all the juiciness is in the gates. So you're going to want to start studying the gates and really understanding what's active for you and what brings together like the soup of you. What are the pieces to the puzzle? What are the ingredients in your soup? And how can you use them to your advantage? Because you start being able to see the patterns between all the things that make you, you. And then you're like, oh, okay, I understand what I'm here to do. Instead of comparing, oh, that person's really great at telling stories. Maybe I should go take a class, and that's comparison. We're not wanting you to compare against anyone else. And that's why I also highly discourage you pulling up your family's chart until you dive into you, because you're going to start comparing. I'm guilty. I printed out everybody's stuff. I was so focused on understanding my family and stuff. It's just going to take you longer to understand you. And we're not here to compare or compete. We're here to really just be ourselves, to come into our naturalness. And then you can help supporting other people. But you're not even going to realize that you're in victim or codependency or in control, trying to change another person to make you feel more comfortable. We're not here to focus on anyone outside of ourselves. So just putting that disclaimer out there. So the not self theme for open center throats, am I trying to attract attention? Because you feel that openness here, you're like, is anybody going to hear me? I want to be seen and heard, and I don't think anyone's going to hear me. So then you maybe will talk over somebody, or you'll interrupt people, or you'll be really loud and boisterous and be like, hey, I want you to pay attention to me so that you can ask me to talk. So the question you can ask yourself is, am I trying to attract attention? Or am I responding to something? Because if you're responding, it's okay. But if you're trying to attract attention, it's in your not self theme. So this is just more of the voices of your throat center. If it's connected to a different center. So we have what is the channel that goes from the heart, or the heart to the throat? I have, right? Because especially 21 is about being in control. And it is people that I have control, authority. This is G center to throat. So I remember, I lead, I can make a contribution. So if you have these channels defined, this is the kind of voice that comes out of it. The splenic and the throat, since this is all about being in the now, surfing this physical plane, I am now, I am, I experiment, identify. So these are the voices that it has, which I thought was really cool. You guys can come back and look at these on the replay. All right, so moving on to the G center. So that again is love, direction, and identity. And it houses the vessel of love and the cross of the Sphinx. So this one, a lot of people can feel this one when they don't have it, because they'll feel like they're missing something. And a lot of people go on this hunt for their other half because they feel that missing piece, that love, or they feel like people don't understand them or recognize them for who they are, and they don't really know who they are. And a lot of these people are chameleons, because you're able to people are able to plug into you. You can read that and be who they are, because you act as a mirror, right? But then people don't really see you. But you're not here to, you're here to be that chameleon and to help people find themselves. So people who have an open G center are really good at helping people see their own soul, helping people dive deeper into themselves. And knowing that you're not missing or lacking anything. It's just you're not consistent on what you love. You can change your mind all the time, change your direction all the time. Johanna, you have an open G center, right?
Yeah, that's why I call myself the soul shaman, because I connect directly into that center. For me, that's like my power center. That's where I can plug, or people can plug into me, and I can just pull that information directly from their soul. And like I said in the beginning, the information they were bringing forth was that this is our heart. This is our well of all knowing. If you've been following me for any length of time, I talk about this center as the well of all knowing. It's our pure divine essence. And that's why it's the actual heart, where the other one is more of the ego and the inner child. And that's why it's the gate of love. It's your purity. And so I can pull that purity from you, and then bring it back out. So a lot of times people, when they have a defined G center, they don't know what their purpose is or their direction, and they need that guidance. Well, I can pull that pureness, right, straight up out of there and just regurgitate it out. And that's what people come to me for a lot of the time. So it's a beautiful thing. And when I was a kid, when I was younger, I always felt like, why didn't I have one consistent theme in my life of friendship? I was friends with everybody. I was a social butterfly. It didn't matter, what genre or nationality or whatever. It didn't matter. I could just fit right into any puzzle, any collective. And so I'm also really good at reading the collective energy, because I can just pull that information in so easily, and it's open, so it's a receiver. So it's a gift. But when you're younger and you don't understand your energy, you don't understand how to use that power, it can feel a little bit confusing and overwhelming, for sure.
Yep, I agree. And a lot of times too, what happens in the center when you have it open and you're kind of searching and seeking for yourself, and a lot of that direction is outside, you're going to plug into somebody as you're observing them who has a real love for something and is very motivated and dedicated from it, and they have that direction in their life, and you're like, oh, I feel that for them. Maybe that's me. Maybe the reason I'm feeling this trigger in my emotional center because I'm recognizing that love and it's lighting me up. Maybe it's for me. And then you go and you try something and you're like, oh, I don't really like this. Because you plugged into somebody else, read their energy and their love and identified that, but then thought it was about you. And a lot of the 10th gate is all about the love of the self, and it can be in the form of self-obsession sometimes, right? And you're not really thinking about other people. You think everything is for you. And so it's about you finding your naturalness, you finding your being. And when you can look at the world in non-comparison or competition, and you have really identified who you are, what your strengths are, and how you interact and interface with this plane, then you're able to call yourself the soul shaman or plug into other people in that way. Because some people are plugging in for a way to try to discover themselves, and you're not lacking anything or missing anything. People do have the keys, but they don't have your pieces. They just have an ability to unlock something within you that you can recognize, but they're not here to give you anything that you don't already have. You can get inspired by other people, but we have to be careful and ask ourselves, like, am I looking for it outside of myself? And that's why one of the questions of the not self theme is, am I looking for direction and love? Right? You're either fixated on finding love and direction because you are not, this is for open centers, you're not accepting the fact that it's going to change all the time for you. You're not gonna love the same things all the time. You're gonna have inspiration and sparks, and be like, ooh, I'm gonna do this. Or when you're hanging out with certain people, you love it. Like your partner loves baseball, and so you can love that too because you're plugging into his love, and so you're sharing that. But by yourself, you wouldn't go to a baseball game. You're like, I don't really care. Okay, the next one is the heart. Willpower, motivation. The not self theme here is feeling unworthy, undervalued. This one's a big one for people. When this is open, it's tough because there's a lot of worthiness stuff that comes up, because this world we're changing, right? We're not staying in this masculine hustle, workaholic driven society anymore. We're kind of moving back into the feminine, where there's a lot of being and naturalness and creativity that's happening. Whereas as everybody's looking, they're like, oh, I need to compete. I need to prove myself. I need to define my worth and all that stuff. If you're open, I'll give you a little bit of pressure alleviation here. You're not here to compete with anyone. You're not here to prove yourself. You're infinitely worthy, and nothing needs to define you. You don't need to be defined. You know how this is defined, like this is a defined center when it's colored in. You don't need to be defined. And the problem that a lot of people face is they're looking for that validation and verification that they are worthy, because they feel that hole, or they're plugging into somebody who maybe has not great ideas around their worth. So maybe you grew up in a family, and you have an open heart center, and your mom constantly was trying to prove herself. She didn't feel worthy. She had a low self-esteem. You're going to plug into that, and you're going to think it means something about you too. Or your mom used you for codependency, or like an emotional dumping ground, and that kind of defined you, like, oh, I'm kind of worthless to my mom now. I heard a story recently about somebody whose mom had her just so that she could have somebody to love, but once she had her, she was like, okay, on to the next thing, and ignored her. So she suffered from neglect. And so you could see how that could interfere with your own sense of worth and value, because of what your parents are telling you is true about you. based on their actions or their words, like, oh, you're worthless or you're stupid or whatever, and you're constantly trying to prove yourself. And you can do that with your spouse, you can do that with the world. It just depends on what is this biofeedback loop that you are caught in, that you're trying to prove yourself to claim a place here. You belong here and you deserve to be here, and you don't have to prove it to anybody. You just you can be. So this one's it tugs at me a lot.
I want to say something about when your heart center is defined, because my heart center is defined, and there's not a huge percentage of people that have a defined heart. And so what I want to say about this is, being at the will center, you are the people, and you'll identify with this, you'll know who you are. Whereas you are able to, say it takes someone all day to clean their house, and you know that you have 10 minutes, you're going to get it done in 5. Like, you are able to lift the world and do everything on your pinky. And I want to say that that is not a good thing to do. We have the ability, we have that as a gift to use our will when it's used in an aligned way. A lot of times, though, when people have that defined heart center, we are the mothers, we are the leaders, we are the people that decide we're just going to do everything for you, because you're not doing it. That control piece comes in. You're not doing it my way, you're not doing it the right way, or you're taking too long. You forget about the fact that of having patience, and your willpower overtakes you, and you're just like, let me do it, I'm going to do it. And that also corresponds to, you'll feel that if you have the martyr, which we'll talk about that another time. But so think about that. If you have a defined heart center, you have the will to make amazing things happen. But is that aligned for you? Because if it is, even though you're using your will, it won't exhaust you. But if you're using your will out of alignment with the defined heart center, it's going to wear you down, and wear you down fast. And it's going to deplete you. It's not going to feel good. And so this is going into, how are you using your energy to empower you and not drain you, and your boundaries and your discernment. And so if that's something you struggle with, let us know. But seriously, look at that and ask yourself those questions.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I have a defined heart, sacral, and root. And so I have tons of energy to do the things I want. But, and we'll talk about sacral beings later, but it is important for you guys to ask, why am I doing this? Why? Because if it's for a reason that's not aligned with you, or if it's out of judgment or comparison, or I need to prove myself, or whatever it is, you're not going to get that source energy. You're not going to get that flood. You're going to be actually using your reserves that are in your actual physical body, like from the food you eat, the water you drink, whatever it is. But people who have a defined will center, and they don't have a sacral or root, yes, you guys do have the ability to have tons of energy, because you are running off of the will. And divine will can show up because, oh, look, there's 40th gene key, which is divine, or 40th gate, which is divine will. And you can be powered and charged by that. But if it's not in alignment with you and what you're here to do, and you're just not going to get that energy, and you will burn out quickly. Okay. Next, solar plexus, emotion. This is the emotional center. And it has to do with your nervous system too, which I just realized that. Nervous system, moods, feelings, emotions, desire, passions, romance, sex drive, and food. A lot. A lot of stuff hangs out there. And if you have a defined emotional center, most likely you have, actually, yes, 150%, you are an emotional authority. If it's defined for you, you're an emotional authority, which means that you're here to understand your solar plexus. You're here to understand your emotions and to ride that wave when you need to, and to gain clarity after the emotional wave is done. Also, people who have a defined emotional center are beautiful teachers of the emotions as well. Now, that doesn't mean that people that have open emotional centers aren't teachers. You guys are the empaths of the world. Anybody, all these spiritual gifts, whether you have an open head center or an open splenic or solar plexus, that doesn't mean you have certain gifts and you don't have other gifts. But people who have open emotional centers are definitely the empaths of the world, because those emotions are plugging into you. That doesn't mean
I'm an empath and I have a defined solar plexus.
you actually, how your empathy works is not that you can necessarily like, you can feel other people's emotions, but it triggers your response and what an emotion feels like for you, and then you can relate to them.
That's why, because I'm a physical medium, so I read their energy.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And things like, because that center is completely on for you, those emotions will surface and pop up and be like, hey, here's this emotion that's showing up, and I just want to let you know that this is like how you experience sadness. And so then you can be like, hey, are you sad? Because but you won't be able to feel their unique blend of sadness, but you'll be able to be like, oh, sadness popped up, I know you're sad. Oh, depression. Oh, this and that, that's what showed up. But you're going to feel it in your particular juice.
Okay. I'm just gonna, I actually don't agree with that, but it's, you can see how we don't have to agree. We can be open to the possibility of it being both ways. My take on the solar plexus being, especially with it being, whether it's defined or open, the solar plexus relates to our pancreas. It relates to our kidneys, our upper and lower digestive system. And so this is where we store a lot of our emotions, and the kidneys as well, but the kidneys also relate to the spleen, the splenic center. And so this is why we hold our emotions in our bellies, on our upper belly and our lower belly. So if you're someone that carries a lot of weight around your midsection, you are holding your emotions there, and you develop weight as a way of protecting and burying those emotions, or barricading them from the outside world. And if you're not processing your emotions, if you're holding on to something that's heavy or toxic, then it's going to affect your immune system, your nervous system. It's going to affect your lymphatic system, your adrenal glands. It's going to affect the way you digest and break down your food, and your energy. You're going to be exhausted a lot because your body's going to have to go all over the place to avoid those places, because it's sludge moving through it. So you don't have that clarity. So what she said about the emotions is perfect, because you're here to master your emotions so that you can have a clean digestive system, so that your energy can process fluidly, because this is where our emotions is our intelligence, right? Our brain is a tool to do something with it, but our emotions are actually our intelligence. They are the things that speak to us in the world and guide us in the world. And so you want to make sure you're able to process those things. So think about how you feel in your stomach and your energy level, and how often you get sick, things like that. That will tell you if your energy center is overloaded with emotions that aren't serving you, and if it's not, and you process easily, and you're not sick a lot, and you have lots of energy, and your energy's flowing well, then you're not holding on to a lot of toxic energy. You're not holding on to things that aren't serving you in the way of an emotional sense. So that's another good way to read it on the energy level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's really important for you guys to understand the gates that are activated by this center, whether you're defined or not, because that's the expression, that's what you're experiencing when your emotions come online. And that could be other people's emotions that you're feeling if you're an open center. The thing about any of your open centers is when you are feeling it in another person, it's about 5 to 10 times more intense than they are feeling or picking up. Like you're gonna feel that pressure in their head if they're having anxiety. You're gonna have that stress pressure in your root if they're stressing out about something. And if there's an emotional wave that they're experiencing, you can feel it. I know, I mean, I have a lot. It's interesting, the friends that I attract a lot of friends that are defined emotional centers, and boy, do I feel what they're going through. And after I disconnect, I'm like, wow, it's not as intense as it was when we were talking on the phone, right? Because you can literally just ring out that center and be like, okay, it's clear now, but you got to detach and remember to disconnect from people. But if you constantly have somebody you have cords with, you're always feeling their emotions. So you're not clean there, and you can't discern what's coming online and activated for you. A lot of, I have the six gate here, and this is the gate of conflict. And so when I sense an emotion, the immediate thing, if I'm in a low frequency, I immediately, conflict. I need to defend myself. Oh my gosh, I don't want to feel this emotion, right? And so it's important for you to understand how you process these emotions. For example, 49 is reaction. It's a reactive gate. And if you are not letting your emotions create a revolution or a rebirth within you, you're constantly reacting. So whether you're feeling it from somebody else or your emotions, you are a loose cannon and you're always reacting. You feel an emotion, you're like, bah, project, react out. Just depending on how you're experiencing it. So use the gates to understand how you're processing emotions. If you have completely open solar plexus center, that means no gates are defined and you're open. There tends to be a lot of anxiety in these people because they're hypersensitive, and it's almost like that energy goes through you don't have any filters. So you are feeling it in its intensity, in its integrity. And a lot of these people struggle going out in public or being in places that have a lot of people, or a lot of emotions going on, and so they'll avoid it. And that's the thing about the not self emotional center, is you have to ask yourself, am I avoiding confrontation and the truth? Because you are going to want to avoid that intense emotion, but you don't have to hold on to it. I know Johanna had said, sometimes when she's reading the collective energy, she's like, okay, let me feel what's going on here. Okay, I'm done, let me put that down. Like, she doesn't hold it the whole time. She gets it, reads it, understands it, puts it down. Like, you don't need to hold on and be like, this is mine now, oh my God, and then you start freaking out.
If you do though, if you're someone who tunes into the collective, whether it's closed or open center, and this is where you have to understand a detachment and expectations and the way that you absorb and discern. If you don't know how to do any of those things and you're pulling in from the collective and you're making it yours and you're saying, this is mine, because I've done this. I was like, oh, this is mine. But I went seeking, right? I was like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this? What is happening? And I started to go down the rabbit hole because I couldn't find an answer. Why? Because I was pulling it in from the collective and I wasn't in the awareness that this isn't mine. I'm pulling in from the collective right now, and I attached it to mean something. And so if that's something that happens to you a lot when you watch the news or you go outside in public or whatever, you need to learn discernment. You have to learn to have healthy boundaries and understand how your energy works so that you can discern, hey, this isn't mine, and not hold on to it, because it doesn't have to be super complicated. You don't have to go through an hour process of clearing yourself out, but you have to understand how you process, because it's different for everyone. I do have someone asking about particular numbers of the gates, and she's using more of a gene key terminology. And I just want to let you guys know, we're not going to go too deep into gates, and we're not going to be speaking on the gene keys at this time. This is a very basic masterclass. If you guys want to go deeper, we are going to be having some stuff coming up for the gene keys, and then we have reset and reclaim if you want to understand how your energy works. So those are just some resources that will be available to you. So just know, if we don't answer those questions, we don't have time to go that deep.
Yeah, there's 64 gates, so I will talk forever about that stuff. So I had to create some kind of boundary. So if you guys do want to talk about it, you can reach out to me and Johanna, and we can set something up to dive into the gene key or human design. If you say, okay, I really want to understand me, this is great basic stuff, but I need help really diving deeper, you can definitely reach out to us. So next center, the sacral center. And this one is, again, an energy center, life force energy. It's a motor. It is sexuality too, and fertility. It does correlate to your uterus and your ovaries physiologically. And this one, again, like I said, it's your engine. It runs your car. If you have it open, then you're either a projector or a reflector, or a manifestor. Because you guys don't normally have it. If you're a manifesting generator or a generator, you're the ones that have this, and you produce the life force energy for the world, for people to take and use. You're creating the life force on the planet. And there's about 70% of manifesting generators and generators. So there's a lot of you guys doing that. So if it's open, because it has to do with energy, the not self theme here is you're not knowing when enough is enough, And you have to ask yourself, do I know when enough is enough? Because you will burn the hell out. And there's a lot of projectors experience this because there's only 20%. And I guess, I mean, I've talked to a lot of projectors. I don't know about manifestors. Manifestors are an energy type anyways. They have the will center, but projectors burn out like cray cray. And that's when they're comparing to a generator, which is 70% of the population. Actually, Ra he gives projectors 20% discount to understand this material, because first of all, you guys take longer to understand and digest it. And second, you don't have all the energy to just dive in and be running into this a lot, you know? So it's really important for projectors and reflectors for you guys to be conscious of your energy and give yourself a lot of reset time and know what your reset point is, because when you're in judgment and comparison, and projectors especially, you guys will get into hustle because that's how you're taught to get energy going, and that creates burnout too, like exhaustion will happen.
I have something fun to say about the sacral because mine's open and I'm a manifester. My husband's a manifesting generator and he has a defined sacral. So it's also a desire center, right? And it also ties into the lineage, right? Your sacral is where we connect to our past and future, to all time and space, to all different aspects of ourself, whether it's in another galaxy, reality, whatever. And so when it's open, right? Mine's open, I can pull in other people's desires like this. So we could be driving along and it's just me and my husband, and he could have an inkling for pizza, let's say. And let's say pizza is not something that I normally eat. All of a sudden I could get this urge and I could be like, I really want pizza. So I could also be pulling that in telepathy wise, but if I get that craving and it's not a craving I usually have, then I know I'm pulling in from my sacral, I'm pulling in that desire. Also, sexuality with partners. If you are connecting with somebody who has a defined sacral, if you think about when you're in the mood, right, or when you are feeling that intense energy, you're almost picking it up from then. When you come together, it intensifies. And so it's always fun if you think about that. If you get with somebody who you both have open sacrals, well, maybe your sex life and your sex drive isn't that active. It doesn't mean anything about you, which a lot of times as women, we take that shit personally. But I want you to know that it may just be the way your energy runs. It may just be the way that your body is. It doesn't mean when we make something personal, we create our own suffering. So understanding how you operate energetically will change your life. And so those are just some fun things to bring in for the sacral.
Yes. Yep. And I'm a generator. My husband is a projector, and my sex drive is like, you know, I'm like, I'd rather be creating other things than babies, even though I'm creating a baby right now. But I think that a lot of times when you have an open sacral, some of your not self theme is, should I be wanting to have sex? I think I need to have sex. I think we should have sex. And a lot of guys that have the open centers, they're like wanting that and craving that because they're wanting the connection and the plug in there, you know? So I feel like sometimes it gets over a sex drive or none at all. Like, oh, I don't ever want to feel it, like if it's open, right? If they're okay. But I think a lot of men are told that I don't know. I don't want to make assumptions. I'm not a man. And the same thing with the solar plexus. It's really hard for you to understand what it's like to be the opposite of you, right? I don't know what it's like to have a defined emotional center. I don't know what it's like to have a defined head center, but I know what I experience with my clients and what my clients tell me. So I only have that kind of experience, but we can't assume anything. So the only thing we can do is focus on ourselves, guide ourselves, and be the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be, and just accept ourselves, and they can deal with themselves, right? You're not here to solve their problems or answer their questions. That's their journey, that's their life. And then the splenic, there's a lot of fears that happen in the splenic, and if you have it open, you have the ability to be fearless. These are the different fears that show up here based on the gates. Fear of inadequacy, fear of tomorrow. This is also the psychic center. And again, like we were talking about before, just because you don't have something doesn't mean you're, like, if you don't have the psychic center, 57, it doesn't mean you can't be psychic, right? But if you have it, it's just defined, and that's energy that is available and accessible to you. But again, it doesn't mean you can't have it. The 44th is fear of the past, 50, fear of responsibility, 32, fear of failure, 28, fear of death, and 18, fear of authority. And you can have an open center, but still have different things defined. So that's how you're going to be experiencing fear, and that's how fear is going to trigger for you.
I wanted to just bring in this real quick, just to give another example, because when you look at these fears, I have an open splenic center, and I have 28, 32, 57, and I think those are the 3 gates that I have active. But what I want to tell you is, when my light body activated, when my spiritual gifts, if you will, came online, and the greatest gift that I have is the clairsentience, so the ability to feel the energy. I immediately was thrown into these intense fears because I was tapping into the collective energy, and I was feeling all of these things. And so I was afraid I was going to go bankrupt. I could have had $1 million in my account. I was afraid that I'd be homeless when I had a beautiful home. Like, I had all these intense fears coming in, and I didn't understand why. And it's because I didn't have healthy discernment or boundaries, and I was just pulling this stuff in. So a lot of times what happens is people wake up, right? They go through a spiritual awakening, and then their light body activates and their senses start to awaken. And all of a sudden they think they're going crazy because they're feeling this intense fear of something, right? It can happen with anxiety. It can happen with emotional overwhelm. It can happen with your fears with the splenic center. It can happen with pressure with your root. So I want you to think about your life and what's going on in it, and how it's changed since you've awakened, right? Or become more aware, how your senses have activated. And you'll be able to look at this differently, and you look at your chart and you can say, that's not my fear, or that's not something that I should be worrying about, or that's not an emotion that's even mine or has anything to do with what I'm going through right now. I must be pulling it in, and I decide that I'm going to release it. And then once you learn boundaries and discernment and all that, you'll be able to you can go out in public and not be overwhelmed or whatever. But I wanted to bring that example in because it threw me my whole life. I didn't have any of these. And then my senses came online, and I was pulling all of a sudden this information in from the collective. And it was very overwhelming and scary. And a lot. So know that you're not alone, that if that's happening, it's a normal thing, and you're just being called to learn how to understand your energy and how to create those boundaries and those discernments, and to transmute or transform that energy back to your pureness, to your energy, how you are designed, and kind of clear that out. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It really doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yay. Yeah, we're here. When the light body comes online, like she was saying, it brings a lot of stuff to the surface to be transmuted, to be transformed, and into a higher frequency, because it's wanting to come, all your light's wanting to come in your body. So we're needing to make room. And so we're wanting to get rid of all that dense energy and transform it into more light. And so that's why we're here to overcome our fear of death, to overcome our fear of failure, because it's not an issue, but it is a primal fear, and a lot of this stuff is still coming up, and we're just here to change our perspective and let it go. This is also about surrender, this splenic center. So you're learning surrender in here, because you need to also understand, are you holding on to things that aren't yours or that are not good for you? Because sometimes, especially people who have open splenic centers, plugging in a relationship, sometimes you'll stay in crummy relationships just because you don't know how to let that go, right? Yeah, anyways, moving on to the root, the last center, the root center. This is another pressure center, and again, I said that this was stress. So when you have a defined root center, you have the gas that powers the car, and you can get up and go. When you have an open root center, say you have a defined spleen or you're a defined sacral and an open root, you can go, but at the end of the day, if you sit down, you know that you're down for the count, because you don't have the energy to spark again. So anybody who has open root centers, you'll also feel that pressure to finish that to-do list, get stuff off of your back, because you're feeling the pressure of the things you have to do, the pressure of that to-do list, of that project, of that other person, their stress is going to pressure you to help solve their problem, because you're like, I can't feel your stress anymore. Let me just fix this for you, because you just want to get it off your back. Like a lot of these pressure centers, the anxiety, I want to answer your, I want to solve your problem because I'm tired of feeling this anxiety or stress. So then you try to interfere with their life because you don't know how to let it go out of you, because you're experiencing it so much. So the root is a great one to look into and understand, because there's a lot, and it's associated with your root center, your root chakra as well. So again, drive, ambition, stress, adrenaline, worry, and potential depression. Anybody who has an open root center, you guys are experiencing stress at a higher level than a lot of people, because again, remember I said anything that's open, you're experiencing it 10 times more than other people. So if you're in a high stress job and there's a lot of people around you that have a lot of stress, you're going to have to create strategies for you not to take on their stress. You're going to create those boundaries, because what's going to happen is you're going to be overstressed, and you're going to keep having people plugging in there, and you're going to be reading their stress. So the not self theme is, question is, am I in a hurry to get things done so I can be free of pressure? So anytime you're trying to hustle and get stuff done, ask yourself, am I just doing this to get it off my list, or am I inspired and I will actually want to do that? Do you have anything you want to say about the root center, Johanna?
No, I just know that we need to wrap it up and get into the transmission, because we're already over an hour.
All right. Okay, so just a quick tidbit on the different energy types. We have generators and manifesting generators. You guys are in the same category. Manifestors, projectors, and reflectors. And these are the different aura types. This is how your aura interacts and interfaces with other people. Manifesting generators have closed and repelling or attracting energy, depending on if you are attracted to what they're bringing, what they're creating. Generators have an open enveloping, and that just means that they can read a lot of people at once. Projectors are very focused on one person, so they have that focused and absorbing. They go super deep, and that's why they're here to be guides. It's because they're here to go deep and know, okay, you'd be great here, let me direct you here, I'm feeling this about you. They're great with one-on-one stuff. If you put a projector in a room full of kindergartners, and it's going to overwhelm the crap out of them. That doesn't mean they can't do it, it's just they're not using their energy appropriately. They can be principals, that would be amazing, but not the kindergarten. Stick the generators and the manifesting generators as kindergarten teachers. Reflectors are here to take in everything, because they're open completely, and kind of guide and direct where things are kind of off. And the thing about reflectors, if you're a reflector, it's very important for you to wait a whole lunar cycle until you make decisions. There's a lot of different decision-making strategies for each of these. The strategy for reflectors are wait for the lunar cycle. A projector needs to wait for the invitation. If you're guiding and you constantly want to guide and direct people, if you go and show up in somebody's area and be like, you need to do this, and they're going to be like, I didn't ask for your opinion or your advice, I don't need it, get out of here, because they're going to feel very threatened by you coming in and trying to change things up. So it's important for projectors to wait to be initiated to then direct people, or else you're gonna feel bitter. This is your strategy, and this is what happens when you don't use your strategy. This is what happens when you do use your strategy. So bitterness, not self-success. So it's very important for projectors to fight the urge to perfect, to guide, and really just wait for somebody to ask for that. And sometimes spirit and source is going to push you. You don't have to wait for a formal invitation or a verbal invitation. You might just get that pull, oh, they're pulling me to them. Generators and manifesting generators are here to respond based on their sacral, based on doing what you love, loving what you do, and asking yourself, do I have the energy to do this? Am I wanting to put my energy towards this, yes or no? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for someone else? Frustration is your indicator that you're off alignment, off center. Satisfaction is your self-theme. Manifestors are here to inform. There's kind of no rules for that, just as long as you're aligned. with who you are, what your purpose is, you can inform everyone, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. And then they gauge the impact it's going to have. So if you're wanting to drop a course, before you drop that course, inform them, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What's your guys' idea on this? Oh my God, that's a great idea. Da, da, da. You'll have all these people pulled to you, attracted to you. You'll create it, put it down, and everyone's going to be like, I want this, right? Or if you're going to go do something, you need to inform your family. It's not that you're asking anybody for permission, although that is courtesy, right? Manifestors are big energies, and a lot of people feel intimidated by them. The not self theme is anger. When you don't get the response or things don't work out, it's because you're off center and the strategy wasn't done appropriately. And the self theme is peace. So is there anything you want to add about being a manifestor, Johanna?
No, I think you did a pretty good job. The only thing that, I always tell people is if you are a manifestor, you'll know that most of your life you probably had people tell you that they were intimidated by you, or you had a lot of people that didn't want to be around you. And it was because you have a big energy. And so when you walk into the room, people take notice. And if you're around people who don't have, who aren't secure in their energy and who they are, and, have unworthiness or whatever judgments, then they're going to feel the intimidation and they're going to feel like it's too much. But she's absolutely right. It's to inform. And so my whole life, I always told people what I was doing. And a lot of times people don't like that. People want you to ask, and that doesn't apply to us. And so you just, again, just knowing who you are and how your energy works, how your personality works, all of this is very empowering because we are conditioned. We come into this world divine and awake, and we get shut down, turned off, and told what to do and how to do it, and that this is the appropriate way. And that is not the truth. And we are all, even if you're a generator and you're 70% of the population, you're still unique in the way that you do things. And so you need to understand how your energy works. It is your superpower. It is your ability to guide your vessel appropriately, how to be healthy, how to have good relationships. Again, why we say when you heal yourself, you heal the world. You can't learn this information to go out and teach it. When it comes to human design and your energy, you really have to embody it. You have to understand how you flow, because if you're out of alignment and then you go decide to record a course or go on a Facebook Live or whatever, that energy is flowing out from you and out into that collective, whoever's watching. And so it creates that cord of energy. And so understanding your energy, how to be in alignment with it, how to be out of the way and in flow is very powerful if you're going to be a light leader, or even as a parent, for crying out loud. So really, there's power in this, no matter what you're doing in your life, because it's all about understanding you at the deepest level.
Yes. Amazing. If you do have a manifestor child, I would definitely reach out for support, because you want to raise them, to empower them to be leaders. And a lot of times it's really hard to be a parent to a manifestor child. Or if you have manifesting generated children that are go, 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 and you're a non-energy type and you're like, they exhaust the crap out of me. There's a lot of stuff that can help you feel like a more empowered parent. And it's not to control the kids. They're on loan to us. We're just here to try to help them be tuned in and tapped into themselves, and not have to go through this deconditioning process later because of what we did to them in their childhood. But there's no guilt or shame or anything about how you parented. There's no book on parenting. Everything is super unique, right? So using this as a parenting strategy is amazing. Just make sure you understand yourself first.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because I spent a lot of time working with parents and children. And that was the thing. When I was teaching them about their kids, they would be like, you're teaching me about myself right now. And I say, yes, because when you understand how you work, you understand and accept that everybody works differently. And you no longer want to conform or condition your children to do something that's not in alignment for themselves, because you understand that we all operate differently. Some can sit at the table and sit quietly at 5 o'clock and eat dinner, and some that could actually hurt their digestion to sit down and sit still at the dinner table. So you understanding that, we become empowered parents because we know that there is no one set of rules.
Yes. So I'm just gonna recap about manifestors with one sentence for each of you guys, and tell you guys like what your role is in the wider scale of things. So if we were to think about we're all working together. This is how we all work together in this system, right? And understanding what roles and responsibilities each of us have. So if a manifestor has an idea, Johanna has an idea. I want to create the pyramids, and it's because of this, and it's going to do this, and right. She has this big grand idea, and she created this whole blueprint or whatever. But she's not here to actually create the pyramids, right? So what she's going to do is she's going to attract a projector, who's then going to help guide and direct her. Like, okay, I think we need these people, because she's only here in the creation process. She's not here to have to be in the nitty-gritties or the details. She needs a projector to help guide and direct the people who are actually going to be building the pyramid. So she's going to be attracting the people who are actually going to be helping her create these pyramids, and repelling the ones that have nothing to do with her vision. So her energy is going to just get people out of the way that don't even have anything to do with it. Right? Because they're gonna be like, oh, this crazy lady, or she's too intense, or whatever, wackadoo lady that wants to create pyramids with Peller pyramids. Then the projector is gonna come on. We're gonna have a ton of generators making the pyramids, not because they're slaves, but because they see the vision. Because back in the day, yes, it was slavery building those pyramids, but they're gonna really be like, I see the vision of this. I want to do this. I love to do this, and count me in. Generators aren't here to be bossed around or told what to do. They have to align with that love and do what they love and love what they do, and then they'll have a ton of energy to do it. And then reflectors come in, and they're going to just sample the whole process and be like, I think you guys should redirect your energy here. I think this is kind of off, blah, 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 blah. They don't really do anything, and they're a little bit different than the projectors, because they're gonna be sampling the environment and what's happening for a whole month, and then they're gonna give you their report. They're not gonna go in and be like, change this, do that. They're gonna be like pulling in information. So like what me and Johanna are doing with this school, she has this idea to create magical soul, like the university, right? And so we're creating this together, and she kind of pulled me in. I had already had knowledge, training, and a pull towards that, like a deep love for that. And so of course we were attracted and pulled together to create this together, because she's attracting and pulling in people that are here to help serve that bigger mission that she's creating. Because you guys, you manifestors are here to create. You have like a bigger vision and mission that you're bringing forward to come onto this plane. So that is how we all work together. We're not going to go into the different authorities, but there's emotional, sacral, splenic, ego, G, mental, and lunar. And this is just the connection of all of them. Because gene keys, human design, I Ching, astrology, all that stuff is connected. And you can, like I said before, you can use all of these as tools to help you really understand and master yourself. Because this is all about self-discovery to get into self-mastery. So there you go. If you guys have any burning questions, we might be able to take a few, but we do definitely need to get into the transmission.
So what we're going to be doing is, if you're able to stay on, I've locked the meeting. So if you exit, you're not going to be able to come back in. We are going to go in just a few minutes into a transmission. It's actually not going to be as quick as I thought. It's a pretty, we'll see how quickly it moves, but we're going to focus on the help of letting go. So we're going to be clearing out our lungs and allowing that release. The lungs and the expression of our breath is how we let go and release that which no longer serves. And so a lot of times it can get caught up in our lungs, and we hold on to it pretty tightly, and we can get that shortness of breath. We can get bronchitis, congestion, all kinds of stuff related to the nose and throat. But this is a beautiful transmission. If you want to grab some water, make sure you're in a comfortable space, and make sure you're not driving. If you're driving, you're going to want to exit out of this, because this is not going to be anything appropriate for that.
Yes. And I'm just going to turn everybody's video off. If you guys have your video on, and you can turn it off as well.
Did you see any questions that were good to answer? Okay. All right, and we're just going to make sure everybody's muted. And to let you know, if any of this stuff, if you want to go deeper into understanding your energy, not just human design, but how you work, how to build your structure so that your energy can flow fluidly, without blocks, without obstacles. If you want to understand discernment and healthy boundaries and not be the sponge and absorbing and being in that not self theme, I want to invite you to reach out to us and join us in Reset and Reclaim. It is at an introductory rate right now. It does go up very shortly to $444. Right now it's only $222. So we would like to send that invitation out to you. And then we're going to be closing it for enrollment for a couple of months. This course, we have people in it right now. I think there's 13 people going through it. It's totally changing their lives. They're having deep realizations, and it's to empower us. We cannot open our gifts and expect to sustain the power that comes forth when we pull down from source, when we pull from our highest aspects of ourselves, when we build these empires and these businesses and step into our light to be that light leader. It doesn't work as well without the foundation to sustain it, to withhold the weight that we're going to be carrying when we bring these beautiful things into the collective, to be of service. So to be of service, you must first serve yourself. You must clean your energy. You must understand how you flow, and you must build that structure to contain the energy that's going to flow. Otherwise, you're leaking it out all over the place. You're not going to be making money. You're not going to be bringing in consistency, that prosperity flow. So it's very important to build that structure. And as a manifestor, I have a very structured routine. Doesn't mean I don't flow. It doesn't mean that I don't take days off. But I have routines that are set for a reason, because I have a lot of energy. I need to have it flow fluidly. And so it's very important for us to understand that. It helps our homes and the world, everything run a little bit more effectively. And so if that calls to you, know that you still have time to join us at that introductory $222 rate. We do offer payment plans. We want this to be something that if you feel called, if it tugs at you, then, and please know, reach out to us. We'll drop you some more information and let you know how you can join in and be a part of it. Okay, so again, let's get ready for this beautiful transmission. I do have my zeolite. This is a stone of purification. I'm going to be using my, I have a team that I have compiled to develop this healing modality, this method. It's all about purification, which is something that is part of my purpose, is to help purify your energy so that you can see clearly, so that you can feel clearly. It really gets everything out of the way so that you can open and bring your light body fully online. And so when we understand the organs, we understand where we hold these things. So you may hear me use words interchangeably like see, envision, or feel. Please know, if you are not a feeler, if you're not a seer, it is your imagination you can use, you can know, and just bring in that intention that is what is happening. You don't have to physically see it. And if something else comes, if you have another vision that pops in while this is going on, that's perfectly okay. Every single person is going to experience this differently. And if you hear me use the word transmute, that is transform, that it's turning something from dense to light. It's changing the chemistry of the energy. So I would like you to just get comfortable. And if you have your water, we're going to do a quick water blessing. Water is a majority of our body. It is a power source. It allows what we break down during these transmissions to really fuel and clear this out through our actual physical body. So just hold on to your water. I want you to bring all of your attention into your heart center. And just begin to breathe. And I want you to feel that energy beginning to just get bigger and bigger, as if a light is growing within you. We're going to allow that light to rush down our arms, down into our palms, activating our palm chakras, our hand chakras. And we're going to allow the purity of our divine essence, our pure divine love, to begin to flow from our heart center through our hands into our water, changing the molecular structure of the water into the most pure divine power. Just allowing that energy, your energy, to fuel that water. And then we're going to take a drink, and we will ask that you finish this water through the end of the day to allow you to take anything that you've broken down to pass through you naturally. Okay. Are you guys all ready? Let's go. So the intention of this transmission, and a transmission is different than a meditation. A transmission is energy being transmitted. I have the gift of light language, so I bring forth the technologies of light, and it transmits through my energy field, through my voice and through my eyes. And so you will feel the energy beginning to rise as it gets as you hear the words coming from my mouth. So it's not even about the words, it's about the frequency that you are receiving. So today, the intention of this transmission is to purify all of the things that we're holding on to that are lingering in our energetic field. The things that have risen to the surface recently that we are not quite ready to let go of, that we're holding on to out of fear or for a sense of false security. And we're going to clear those 12 energetic fields or ripples that are outside of your physical body. And then we're going to bring in a new technology, and we're going to wrap that around our lungs, and we are going to purify that organ on an energetic level, and really reset your whole lymphatic and nervous system back to its divine essence. And as this is a group transmission, so this will be effective for the replay for anybody who's catching it. And just know, if you were to do a session like this one-on-one, it'd be a lot more intense, because the energy is only directed at you, where right now the energy is going to be directed at a group of people. So let's start by tuning into our heart centers once again. And just breathing in and out. Two more times, breathing in and out. Just relaxing your whole entire body. One more time, breathing in and out. I want you to see in front of you a beautiful door. I want you just to step inside. And I want you to notice that the room that you are entering in is a white room. It has white walls and white floors. And they're actually made of selenite. We're not going to allow the frequency to rise just yet. We're just going to observe the room. And as we walk to the center of the room, we're invited back into our heart space. And we are invited to call in the rainbow ray. And this rainbow ray is going to begin to fill our heart center. And it's going to fill it completely up. And then it's going to begin to grow with every natural breath that you take. Getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You feel your arms, see your arms, however it comes to you, raising out to the side and feeling that beautiful rainbow ray that you have called in through your well of all-knowing. beginning to flow fluidly out of your arms, out of your hands. And as it extends past the palms of your hands, I want you to see, feel, know that it's going to go out about 5 more feet from your actual palms. And I want you to see the light beginning to swirl around you, straight out 5 feet in all directions from your heart center. Just feel the power that your divine well of all knowing is generating. And as you breathe, you're going to feel this beautiful rainbow ray moving down through your physical body and 5 feet out in all directions as it moves through your channel down into your solar plexus. And notice how your solar plexus appears to you. Is it the earth dry and cracked? Is it moist and fertile? Or is it overrun with water and flooding? Whatever it is, we're asking for this rainbow ray to bring in the elements of which will bring it back to balance. So maybe it's fire, maybe it's water, maybe it's wind. Just observe how it shows up for you as we allow this rainbow ray to continue to flow down our channel through our body, and again 5 feet in all directions around you, down into your sacral, where we call back all the parts and pieces of you from all time and space, no time, all galaxies, all realities. We allow and invoke our higher presence in all aspects to be present with us right now. There's power in numbers. So we feel the wholeness of us return. As we allow this rainbow ray to move down the channel into our root, and again 5 feet in all directions around you, we clear, instantly transform any pressure that was building, allowing us to see clearly the stability within us, as if there is a beautiful foundation within us and little hooks where we can anchor and hook our light body into. Anchoring our light. And as we anchor our light, we allow our light to flow fluidly through our legs into our feet, where we can envision, feel our feet gently being placed on Mother Earth's surface. And feel that light beginning to move through her surface, through all of her crystalline layers, and connecting at her heart center. Beginning to feel your breath slowing, your heart, as you become one with Mother Earth, with the animal kingdom, with the plant kingdom. Just feeling that grounded, loving, supporting connection. And as we feel that bottom half of that infinity loop rising back up, as we allow ourselves to receive from Mother Earth, receive that divine love back up into our heart center. Feeling our heart center beginning to rise, and that rainbow ray lifting up into our throat. And again, 5 feet all directions around you. As we allow that ray to lift any constrictions, any heavy, dense energies that we're weighing, allowing it to lift it and transform it back into light, back into love, freeing your throat to speak your truth, to speak from your heart, to bring forth hope and empowerment, to speak your desires into your reality. As we allow that rainbow ray to rise up into the center of our brain, tapping in to our pineal gland, allowing it to simultaneously run from the center of our brain to our third eye in the front of our mind, and the hypothalamus in the back of the mind, which is the fourth eye, allowing that transmission to be cleared, bringing clarity, lifting the veils of obscurity, transforming them into light, into truth. As we allow that energy to rise to the center, creating the Holy Trinity, creating, activating the fifth eye, allowing for that flood, that beautiful divine mirror to transform, allowing you to see clearly what it is that you need to see, what is in alignment for your soul. As we allow that rainbow ray to enter into our crown, really feeling the tingling of the purification of the top of our head, as we clear our antennas, our receivers, and we empty out our receiving dish, allowing a beautiful stream of rainbow ray to connect up into our soul chakra, as if it is a key to the ethers, to the other realms, unlocking it, and allowing us to widen our perspective and see this beautiful vortex of energy as we allow our heart center to give to all that is the love and gratitude for this experience, and feel that infinity loop come back to its center as we receive what's in alignment for our soul's truth back into our well of all-knowing. At this time, I would like to invite in your healing team, your angels, your guides, your galactic families. I ask that you feel their energy surrounding you. I ask for Mother, Father, God, the Palladian emissaries of the light, to be our gatekeepers of divine light today. And I also invite in my healing team, Agni, my guide, Kali Ma, Goddess Kali Ma, and her beautiful mother energy. We bring in Saint Germain and Kuan Yin, Archangel Michael with his sword of truth, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Uriel, the activator, Archangel Raphael, also known as Merlin, the magician, the master healer, Archangel Sandalphon, helping us to connect to the 5D grid beneath our feet, and Archangel Metatron, reminding us of our connection to the ether, to all that is. I want you to begin to feel the selenite room beginning to activate. Selenite is a very purifying crystal energy. We ask that the elevation now be lifted. If you notice, you may even see yourself already floating, because we've already been brought into the 5D reality. So now we are rising you up once again, allowing you to let go of your ego, to set it aside, to raise your consciousness up into the 6th dimension, freeing yourself of any opinions, any judgments, any fears. Really empowering yourself as we lift you once again, raising the vibration, activating that selenite to raise you up into the 7th dimension. Hearing the harmonics, the energy, the beauty of the love that is streaming in with these technologies. Isn't that beautiful? Once again, we feel into that rainbow ray that's circulating around us that we have self-generated. We've pushed out 5 feet, 360 all around us. And we're going to notice that we have 12 ripples within that rainbow ray, within that field surrounding us. I also want you to start noticing what else is in that field. Is there bricks, pebbles, rocks, shadows? What you are seeing in this field represent the things that have surfaced over these last few months as we've been experiencing these intense energetic frequencies, these emotions that have been trying to rise up, these fears, these limiting beliefs, these karmic relationships. I want you to see them in your field. Maybe they'll show up as a brick or a rock or a shadow. Just notice. Just notice how busy it is or how clear it is. Maybe it's very clear. what we're going to do is we're going to activate the rainbow ray technology, and we're going to allow it to begin to pull back through our 12 energetic bodies. And as it does, it's going to begin to transform that density as it connects with it. As that light hits that density, it transforms it instantly back into light, back into love, creating space, allowing us to release it from the field of energy that most people feel and sense before we ever speak. Allowing that rainbow ray to start moving through these fields and closing in on you, and feeling that lightness that begins to take place. As you feel it coming in closer and closer, when it begins to hit your mental body, you may even feel a little bit in your head. You may feel that center because it feeds into our upper chakras. So you may be able to feel that pressure releasing or revealing itself in your head. As it begins to move through the causal body, this is your karmic relationships. You may feel like you're actually breaking the ties that bind you, that you have plugged into other people and other aspects of yourself. You may feel that release, that freedom, like you're going to float because you're no longer weighed down. As it starts to move through your astral body, through your emotions, you may be beginning to feel a little bit of energy around the outside of your physical body. This is because it's clearing those emotions that are so close to us. And it's going to transform all that is not yours, all that is not serving, all that has come to the surface, right? That's why it's on the outside of our body. It's ready to be released. And as it moves into your physical body, you're going to feel it entering into your skin. And anything just below the skin. So anything that's underneath there that is ready to surface, we're going to transform. This is going to clear the eczema, clear the acne, clear the rashes or the irritations of the skin, because we're transforming that energy that's really trying to surface, really returning our skin, our biggest organ, to its supple, beautiful, divine blueprint. Allowing it to move now through into the tissues, really decreasing that inflammation, the things that flare up in us that are trying to get our attention. We're calming the tissues, allowing them to be purified and calmed, really bringing our energy down to a very peaceful, energetic level. As we allow it to begin to move through our blood, as if it's a purifier, as if it's filtering our blood of the toxins, of the pathogens, of the things that create illness, things that we're carrying and creating in our blood. Allowing it to change the molecular structure to what it was supposed to be, what it's divinely at your 0 point, at your purest divine level. And through the waters that run. And as this rainbow ray moves through the waters of your body, it's lifting the veils that have been obscuring and weighing down the molecules. It's lifting it up and transforming it back into light, illuminating the wholeness that you have always been. And then changing the molecular structure of the water, raising its vibration to the very highest aspect of you at this time on your journey. As we allow the rainbow ray to move into our bones, we almost will see this as cake or sludge in the bones. This is a lot of where the karmic memory, the lifetimes, the bloodlines, a lot of the conditioning is stored, the false stories, the old programming. And this rainbow ray is going to move through your bones, through the structure of your vessel, up and down your spine. It's going to very gently use its light to envelop that obscurity, that old story, that old programming, Releasing it, allowing you to feel lighter, to feel strong. As we allow the dense energy to be transformed into light, and that light, that truth, that purification to then gently soak back into the bones, programming our bones with our truth. Allowing this energy to begin to pull all together as it moves through every aspect, every cell, every strand of DNA. And pulling it all back into our heart center, our well of all knowing, as it returns and lifts to source, taking away anything with it that needs to be transmuted. Feeling that beauty that we have created, we're now going to bring our focus into our lungs. A lot of times our organs can hold the old programming that we're trying to release deep in the structure of the organ, in the water and blood and cells that live in the organ, creating blockages for our energy to not flow fluidly. So we're going to allow Kuan Yin to step forward, and I want you to envision your lungs. And I want you to see this beautiful, soft pink ray of grace being slowly and gently wrapped around the outside of your lungs, about an inch off of your lungs, allowing for contraction and expansion to occur naturally. Just allowing this beautiful, soft pink ray of grace to be wrapped. And then we're going to allow it to be overlighted, really making sure that we are sealing in our lungs completely. And grace means to hold space. And so this ray will be able to begin now pulling gently any toxins, any densities that you are desperately holding on to in your lungs, that you're not ready to express and let go of with your breath, with your voice. And allowing that ray to pull gently, safely, and comfortably into the ray. So it's going to pull the toxin, it's going to pull the densities, it's going to pull what's no longer serving, which you're ready to release. And they're asking for you to breathe in and expand your lungs for just a moment, to allow any expansion to give the ray the ability to get into those crevices. And now breathe out. And we're going to do that once again as this ray is really pulling everything out and absorbing all of that's not serving. Once again, breathing in, allowing for holding at the top, allowing for that expansion to stay. That ray really works, that technology really works to pull and out. Really allowing that energy to just do its job. This beautiful rainbow ray technology utilizes all aspects of us, all the technology that is available to us, and absorbs it out. Perfect. Now we're going to allow Kuan Yin to open this ray off of your lungs and lift it out. She's going to hand it over to Saint Germain, who's going to place it into the violet flame to be transformed back into pure, divine, loving energy. As Kuan Yin returns, she's going to bring forth the aquamarine ray of rebirthing and regeneration. She's going to begin wrapping once again your lungs, allowing for this ray. This ray is going to be moving through our organ, purifying and regenerating the cells to create that instant harmonization, the rapid, accelerated healing. And we're going to overlight this now, really sealing in your lungs. Perfect. Now, sometimes people feel this as coldness, and that's okay if you feel it that way. But we're going to allow the aquamarine ray of regeneration and rebirthing to begin moving now through the structure of your lungs. So it's going to move through the structure of the organ on both sides simultaneously. It's going to be clearing, purifying anything that is hidden that was not caught by the rainbow ray. It's going to be purifying your breath, your ability to expand and contract, and anything else, any water, any blood, anything that needs to be purified still. It's going to be moving through all the way to the center of your lungs. And as it does, what it leaves behind is the instant process of regeneration. So we don't have to wait those 7 years for our cells to regenerate. This is accelerated healing. It is rapid results. It's instant harmonization of the body, of the organ. And as it moves all the way through, it's going to come into the center and fold into itself, completely dissolving, purifying, returning it. We allow Archangel Gabriel to step forward with the white diamond ray. And we're going to allow this to be the energy that seals this in. It also creates that beautiful, rapid acceleration of the emotional aspect of it. So he's going to begin wrapping your lungs in the white diamond ray, really creating that protection, if you will, sealing in all the work that we have done and overlighting it the other way. Really making sure that every aspect, every level is completely protected, sealed, creating a new base, if you will. We're going to allow that ray to now slowly begin to move through as if it is a glue. Just moving through, sealing any gaps, any breaks, any shadows. Really illuminating everything. Because as you physically release, if you feel the urge to cough, to release anyway, belch, anything, this really helps to let you project it out safely and really seal in with that new cellular regeneration. And as that energy moves through all the way again to the center, it folds into itself. That's so beautiful. I can feel a lot of release collectively for those who are going to be listening. Excuse me. That's beautiful. So what we're going to do now is we're going to invite in this aquamarine ray mixed with this beautiful silver ray. It creates its own color. And then we're going to bring this into your heart center and into your adrenals, and we're going to allow the fluid motion of your heart and your breath to begin pumping this through your lymphatic system. And we're just going to allow that to go. And that actually takes about 24 hours. So we've just set that into motion. So it's going to be emptying out your adrenals. It's going to be calming your nervous system. It's going to be calming your reaction, your response rate, allowing you to be more present, more calm, more centered. As we bring your body into energetic balance, making sure everything is in full alignment as this process goes through. Really allowing you to feel in the flow. So beautiful. And as that goes on, we're going to go ahead and seal this up with the power of 3. There is a silent mantra that I say after, so I'll be quiet for just about 10 seconds. And that really is to restructure the DNA work that we have done. So this is what makes this transmission, this healing method so powerful. So first we're going to seal this in with the power of 3. So with the power of 3, I release and seal thee. With the power of 3, I release and seal thee. With the power of 3, I release and seal thee. Beautiful. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the energy of the room back down. We're going to ask that the selenite be calmed, lowering you down from the 7th and 6th dimension, leaving you anchored into that 5th dimension as we ask Archangel Sandalphon to really rise the grid, the 5D grid beneath our feet. And I want you to tune back into the centers of your feet, really feeling them once again touching Mother Earth's surface. and feeling that connection, that instant anchoring of your light, the grounding of your physical body into this present time, allowing you to come back into your awareness of where you are and what you're doing, as we take this moment to thank every single guide, archangel, ascended master, galactic being, benevolent being who stepped forward to assist in holding space for you, and to thank Mother, Father, God, and the Pleiadian emissaries of light, and Agni and my guides for helping me bring forth this magical transmission. So you guys can now come back into this awareness with me, and I would love for you to let me know how this worked for you, how this felt. We're not going to stay on too much longer on this transmission, so you can always post in the group how you felt, and how that envision that this energy transpired for you. Ashley, are you still with me?
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
Kind of.
It was very powerful, I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, oh, wow, so strong. Thank you. You're welcome. And I want you guys to know that I'm actually going to be recording a little bit longer version of this when I have a lot more time for you guys, that will have music and will be a track that will be dropped through our 1111 monthly membership. So that will be something that will be coming in the future for you.
Mm-hmm. And this recording and replay and transmission will be separated and sent out to the is that what you said? No, you said something different. This will be sent to the people in the 1111.
Yes. So this recording will be, we're actually going to leave this one up in the group. Normally we take them down, but we're going to leave this one up. But if you want it to be clean and edited and you want to have the transmission separate, if you're a part of our Magic Monthly, that is a bonus that you get. And that will actually go out later this evening when we've had time to edit it and break it all down. Mm-hmm. But man, you guys let go of a lot through that transmission. So I hope that it was powerful for you. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this masterclass. I know I did. I always have realizations when Ashley and I come together because we kind of open up some new pathways for each other and for all of you.
Yay. Yay. We won't be picking the winner on here for you guys sharing. If you guys want to continue to share the group today, you can get in, and then maybe me and Johanna will come live at a point just to pull the winner. I wrote your guys' names down. If you are last minute, you can still share. Just have to post underneath the comment or in the comments on the thread, and we'll let you guys know when we're gonna announce the winner.
Yeah, and we appreciate you sharing, and we wanted you to share from your heart what you love about us, because that's, you know, we're trying to reach as many people as possible. So, you know, if there's something you love and enjoy about what we bring to you, then we would love for you to share it and let people know, because we rise together. This isn't about me and Ashley. It's about all of us. And this is why we're here to help you illuminate your power, to reclaim it, to ignite it and expand it, and to just own it, because no light is bigger or more brighter than the other. We just have our own light, our own way of transmitting it. So everybody is beautiful and powerful in their own way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Yes. All right, guys. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.